If your shared Excel file feels haunted, changes appear late, rows undo themselves, or you get random conflict copies, this is usually not Excel being broken. It's the way syncing and locking work when a workbook lives in OneDrive. The good news is you can fix most of it with a few predictable steps. First, understand the two clocks involved. Excel saves edits locally fast, but OneDrive syncs those edits to everyone else on its own schedule. Second, understand locking. Some edits can merge cleanly, but other edits force Excel to protect the file by locking parts of it or creating conflicts. So the goal is simple: reduce lag by making sync more reliable, and reduce conflicts by changing how people edit. Over the next few minutes, you'll get a practical checklist: what to check first, which settings matter, how to avoid someone else's editing traps, and what to do when the file is already messy. By the end, you'll have a stable, shared workbook workflow you can trust. Next step. The primary reason shared workbooks feel slow is that you're not collaborating on the file. You're collaborating through a sync layer. Excel writes changes to the local copy on your computer. Then OneDrive uploads those changes. Then other people download them. If any step is delayed, everyone experiences lag. Now add Autosave. Autosave pushes frequent small saves, which is great, but it also means more frequent sync events. If the connection is shaky, those events queue up. Another common issue is that people open the file from different paths. One person opens it from a browser link, another from a local synced folder, and someone else from an email attachment. That creates multiple copies that look identical but are not the same shared source. Finally, Excel features matter. Some features merge well in co-authoring. Others, like certain legacy workbook sharing modes, can trigger locks or force a single writer moment. So before changing anything, your first task is to confirm: are all editors truly in the same OneDrive location, and are they co-authoring the modern way? Next step. Let's separate two problems that get mixed together: sync conflicts and file locking. A sync conflict is a OneDrive problem. It means OneDrive couldn't combine versions cleanly, so it creates a second file or marks a conflict. Locking is an Excel protection behavior. It means Excel is preventing simultaneous edits to something that can't safely merge. In modern co-authoring, Excel tries to merge cell edits, but it can't always merge structural changes. Renaming sheets, moving columns, changing table definitions, editing named ranges, or refreshing certain connections can trigger locks. Also, some actions are workbook level, not cell level. When someone does that, others may be temporarily blocked or forced into read-only. So when you hear it's locked, ask one question: is OneDrive failing to sync, or is Excel intentionally controlling access? The fix depends on which one it is. If you treat a sync conflict like an Excel lock, you'll chase the wrong settings and waste time. Next step. Start with the fastest diagnostic. Confirm everyone is editing the same cloud file, not a lookalike. The safest rule is open the workbook from OneDrive or SharePoint and keep it there. Avoid opening from email attachments, downloads, or copied folders. Next, check that the file is in a synced OneDrive location that's actually signed in and healthy. If OneDrive is paused, signed out, or stuck processing, Excel will happily let you edit locally while everyone else sees nothing. Also confirm the file type. Modern co-authoring works best with .xlsx. If you're using .xls, macros and .xlsm, or a file with older sharing features, collaboration can degrade. Finally, check permissions. If someone only has view access, they may open a separate editable copy without realizing it. That creates mystery versions. The goal of this step is boring but critical: one file, one location, consistent access, and a format that supports co-authoring. Next step. Now let's reduce OneDrive lag. First, make sure OneDrive is not paused and not in a processing changes loop. If it is, the simplest fix is to pause syncing for a moment, then resume or restart OneDrive. Second, watch for huge folders. If your OneDrive is syncing tens of thousands of files, Excel updates compete with everything else. Consider separating active collaboration files into a smaller synced area. Third, avoid syncing over unstable networks when possible. If you're switching between Wi-Fi networks or using a restrictive VPN, OneDrive can retry uploads repeatedly. Fourth, keep file sizes reasonable. A workbook with heavy images, volatile formulas, or many pivot caches can take longer to save and longer to upload. Finally, be careful with simultaneous heavy actions. If two people refresh large pivots at the same time, you can create long save cycles that feel like lag, even when sync is fine. Next step. Autosave is usually your friend, but only when the collaboration pattern matches it. With Autosave on, Excel saves constantly, and OneDrive tries to sync constantly. That's perfect for light, frequent cell edits. It's less perfect for big batch changes. If you're about to do a major restructure, like inserting many columns, rewriting formulas across sheets, or reorganizing tables, consider coordinating a short editing window where one person makes the structural change while others pause. Another practical approach is to split the work. Keep a stable input sheet that everyone edits, and do complex transformations in separate sheets owned by one person. Also, avoid editing while OneDrive is clearly behind. If you notice your OneDrive queue growing, stop making changes for a moment and let it catch up. That single habit prevents many conflict copies. The key idea is simple. Autosave is not just a setting. Next step. Let's talk about the edits that most often trigger locking and please wait messages. Anything that changes the workbook structure is a common culprit. Adding or deleting sheets, renaming sheets, moving large ranges, changing table columns, editing data validation rules, and modifying conditional formatting across big ranges can all force Excel to serialize the change. Another category is connections and pivots. Refreshing external data, changing Power Query steps, or rebuilding pivot tables can create a moment where Excel needs exclusive control. Even if it doesn't fully lock the file, it can delay other people's updates. The fix is not to ban these features. The fix is to schedule them. Decide who owns structural edits, and keep them in short, predictable windows. If your team needs constant structural changes, consider moving the modeling work into a separate workbook and keeping the shared workbook as an input and reporting layer. That reduces collisions dramatically. Next step. Now for the most practical anti-conflict technique. Design the workbook so people don't touch the same cells. Co-authoring is strongest when edits are naturally separated. Use dedicated input areas per person or per team. Use Excel tables for input, but keep the table structure stable. Don't add or remove columns constantly. If you need new fields, add them in planned batches. Use clear conventions like one row per transaction, no merge cells, and no manual subtotals inside the input table. If multiple people need to work on the same dataset, consider splitting by time periods, regions, or owners, then combining with formulas or Power Query in a separate sheet. Also, keep volatile formulas under control. Functions that recalculate often can make the file feel slow and increase save time. The workbook doesn't just store data, it defines how safely changes can merge. Good structure is a collaboration feature. Next step. When a conflict does happen, the worst move is to keep editing blindly. First, stop and stabilize. Let OneDrive finish syncing on all machines involved. If someone has the file open in multiple places, close the extras. Next, identify the authoritative version. In many teams, that's the file stored in OneDrive with the original share link. Conflict files often have the computer name appended. Don't merge by copy-pasting random sheets without a plan. Instead, compare the conflict copy to the main file and extract only the needed ranges. If the edits were simple, you can often copy the changed rows into the main file after confirming no one else changed those rows. If the edits were complex, consider restoring a previous version of the main file, then reapply the clean set of changes. Version history is your safety net, but only if you use it deliberately. Next step. A common frustration is the someone else's editing message when nobody seems to be. Often, the file is open somewhere you didn't expect. It might be open in Excel on another device, open in a browser tab, or held by a background process after a crash. The first fix is simple. Close Excel everywhere and wait a minute for locks to clear. If that doesn't work, make sure OneDrive is fully synced and not holding an upload. Another cause is preview panes or indexing tools that touch the file. Keep the workbook out of folders monitored by aggressive backup or sync tools beyond OneDrive. Also, consider whether the workbook contains features that force exclusive access. like certain legacy sharing modes or protected structures. If locking is frequent, the long-term fix is to reduce structural edits and move heavy modeling work out of the shared file. Locking is often a symptom of a workflow mismatch. Next step. If your workbook is macro-enabled, you get an extra layer of risk. Macros can change many cells quickly, and that can collide with co-authoring. Some macro behaviors also don't play nicely with simultaneous editing, because they assume they're the only writer. If you must use macros, set expectations. Define a macro owner who runs them during a quiet window. Keep macros focused on one sheet or one table, not the whole workbook. Also, consider separating automation from collaboration. For example, keep a shared input workbook, then have a separate processing workbook that pulls the data and runs macros or refreshes queries. That way, the shared file stays stable and merge-friendly. If you rely heavily on Power Query or external connections, apply the same idea. One person refreshes and publishes results, while others edit inputs. You're not removing capability. You're reducing collisions. Next step. Sometimes the real fix is changing the collaboration model. If your team needs database-like behavior, many people editing a shared dataset at once, Excel can struggle, even with OneDrive. A better pattern is collect data in a form, a list, or a database table, then use Excel for analysis and reporting. Even within Excel, you can mimic that by making the shared workbook an input-only file and keeping analysis in separate personal files that connect to it. Another option is splitting one big workbook into smaller ones, like one per department, then consolidating. The sign you need this is constant conflicts, frequent locks, and people losing trust in the numbers. Excel is excellent at calculation and presentation. It's less ideal as a multi-user transaction system. When you align the tool with the job, most lag complaints disappear. Next step. Here's a practical team checklist you can adopt immediately. 1. Everyone opens the workbook from the same OneDrive share link, not from copies. 2. Keep the workbook in .xlsx when possible, and avoid legacy shared workbook modes. 3. Define ownership. One person owns structure, tables, and formatting rules. Others focus on data entry. 4. Schedule heavy operations like refreshes, pivots, and large formula rewrites. 5. If OneDrive shows it's behind, stop editing and let it catch up. 6. When conflicts happen, stabilize first, then merge deliberately, and use version history as your rollback plan. This isn't about being strict. It's about making collaboration predictable. Once the team follows a shared rhythm, Excel co-authoring becomes boring, in the best way. And boring is exactly what you want from a shared spreadsheet that people rely on. Next step. To wrap this up, remember the core model. Excel writes fast locally. OneDrive syncs on its own timeline. Conflicts happen when versions can't merge. Locks happen when Excel protects changes that can't safely overlap. If you fix the basics, one true file location, healthy sync, stable workbook structure, and clear ownership, you remove most of the pain. If you still get frequent locks, that's usually a sign the workbook is doing too many workbook-level operations while multiple people edit. In that case, split input from processing, or move data capture into a tool designed for multi-user entry. If you want one action to take right after this, pick a single owner for structural changes and enforce it for a week. That alone reduces conflicts dramatically. If this helped, subscribe for more practical Excel and workflow fixes. And comment with your situation. Do you struggle more with A, sync conflicts, or B, file locking? I'm always testing new ways to work smarter. Subscribe to see what workflow I'm breaking down next.